People who have been Santa at the mall. What's the creepiest thing a kid has asked for Christmas? I have a cringy but story about a mall Santa. I was a freshman in college at my local mall. This mall is basically dead, hardly any foot traffic at all unless it's the weekend and I see a mall Santa. I accidentally make eye contact and he waves me over. I walk on over to him smiling and he's doing the whole Santa thing. I'm around 22 at this time, and I'm playing along for fun to not make it all awkward. His elves, girls around my age, start talking to me and you can tell them and Santa were bored of and just looking for someone to talk to. Well anyway, they asked if I wanted to buy a picture with Santa. I was poor as crap at the time and was not paying the $20 for a picture. I started to panic internally because I was like, oh crap, did they just talk to me for the last 5 minutes because they expected me to buy a picture? One of the elves says she bets my parents would love it, and that's when the horrible idea clicked in my head. I looked her in the eye and said, oh, yeah, sorry, no, my parents are dead. They aren't BTW. Dead silence from Santa and the elves. Oh. One of the elves pipes in that she lost her dad a year ago, so she knows and understands what it's like. They then talked to me for about 20 more minutes trying to make me feel better. I felt like crap the whole rest of the month and I'll still think about it sometimes and cringe hard. TLDR. I lied to Santa and his elves and told them my parents were dead. This is one of my worst memories ever. I had helped Santa for almost 20 years, but mostly for private parties and events. I did cover for him many years ago in Little Mall in Belding, Michigan. A young girl came up with a group of kids and didn't even look up at me. I asked her what was wrong. She said I didn't give her what she asked for last year and started crying. I told her I was sorry and would try again this year. She said, you can't. I asked you to stop daddy from hurting mommy and he still did. Now mommy is dead. I had absolutely nothing to say except I was so sorry. After that group of kids left, I went homesick. Took off my suit and threw it away. To this day, I can hardly bear this and I still think about it every Christmas time. Not creepy and not mall Santa, but I dressed up as Santa for Halloween one year and sat on the porch handing out candy from a sack. One kid looked excited until his dad said something along the lines of, now remember, that's not the real Santa. I gave him some candy. Then I reached into the second sack and pulled out a big butt, hand-carved, wooden, monster truck and handed that to him as well. Kid thought it was great. Dad, not so much. Freaking fantastic. That dad was obviously proved wrong. Don't let him dull your shine, Santa. This is a grim one. My ex's dad owned a restaurant and I worked there part-time in my late teens, so I witnessed this. Christmas Eves were usually really busy, so to earn more money his wife came up with the idea to pretend to be Santa for a few hours on Christmas Eve and charge something like £2 per kid. This one dad came up to my ex's dad. My ex's dad was Santa, not me, and paid the money for his kid and then went to the toilet with his other child, a baby, leaving the kid with Santa. Santa asked the kid what he wanted for Christmas, and apparently the kid whispered into his ear, I want daddy to go away. He asked the kid to explain why, and apparently the dad had beaten up the mother a few hours prior and had locked her in the shed in their back garden before taking the kid and his baby sister out to eat because they had been crying hysterically and he was worried the neighbors would hear and get suspicious. Santa then asked the kid for his address and told my ex, who worked in the kitchen, to call the police. I think some police went to the house, and then some turned up at the restaurant to arrest the dad. A social worker also came to collect the kids. We never found out what happened to them after that, but it ended up in the local paper and got loads of promotion for the restaurant. I mustn't have made myself clear enough. I wasn't Santa. I was the waitress who witnessed it from afar. My ex got me a job at his family restaurant. My ex's dad, aka the owner of the restaurant, was Santa. I didn't realize that this would blow up like it did and I feel like I need to just clarify that. I love Reddit. You guys have managed to put some kind of magical Disney movie spin on the thoroughly depressing situation which I'd never considered before. Crap, this sounds snarky but it's not. I appreciate it, makes it seem even slightly positive. That's heartbreaking. Hopefully it ended up well for the kids. My 2-year-old once asked Santa for a Christmas tree. He gave me the most disgusted look. I was horrified because it was only the beginning of December and I was holding off until after her birthday party, the 5th of December, to put the tree up and my enormous collection of decorations for the house. I didn't want her birthday to be overshadowed by Christmas. My birthday is pretty near Christmas, 14th, and every year, my parents waited until after my birthday to put the tree up. I super appreciated it. You're doing the right thing. Also, the 5th is pretty early. That's one judgmental Santa. Not a mall Santa, but my fire department does a Santa visit to all the houses in my town. We have a few guys dress up as Santa and we drive around going house to house in the fire engines. One year when I was Santa we go to a house with a married couple and 2 kids. The woman is clearly pregnant. The daughter, about 10-12, creeped the heck out of me. I asked her what she wanted for Christmas and she looks at her, I assume stepmom, and says deadpan, "I want the baby to die." Jesus Christ, kid. It's possible that she wasn't allowed to express her frustration over a new sibling and vented it all at once. Not a Santa, but I remember when I was over at my relative's house I asked my little cousin what she wanted Santa to bring her and she said wanted boobs like her mom had. She was only about 6, so it was weird for me to hear her say that, but she was in a phase where she idolized her mom and wanted to look like her. Same hairstyle, same glasses, etc, so I guess it sorta made sense. I remember when I was a little kid, my sister asked Santa for a pony. I was next, so I asked for rat poison for the pony. Tenyomi was an edgy little butthole. That seems inefficient. Should have gone for a nice jug of pony poison. I once was Santa for the horse club my mum and sister were. I've agreed on doing it because I thought it would be fun. I don't know if it's the same elsewhere, but people here who do horse riding are usually rich people, so rich families. So these 6 and 7 years old seriously were asking for animals, such as horses, normal, or turtles. One even asked for an elephant. And at the end of the line, one kid asked for a whole zoo. High hopes for him. I said I would, but I doubt he got what he wanted. Ended up ruining the whole Santa myth. Since when I finished, the children were still there and I shouted, "Mom, can I go now?" to their horse teacher. Oh, and the scary part there is how these children talked about actually possessing the animal, like a doll or any other toys, and not like actual creatures. Not the kid, but I had an elderly lady who used a walker insist that she wanted to sit on my lap. To 20-year-old me, it was unbelievably awkward, but I let it happen. I was a helper at the Easter Bunny set one year, so not Santa, and a kid was having trouble getting up onto the bench. The dad was adamant that she be let alone to do it by herself, but there was a line and after she fell 3 times I kinda felt bad for the girl. Anyways, I picked her up and put her next to the Easter Bunny, which the dad was not a fan of. He started yelling at me and pushing me. Long story short, he eventually tried to swing at me. That's where I drew the line. I moved just out of the way and swung back and hit him right in the jaw. That was the last year I worked at that set. Too bad that wasn't caught on tape. The Easter Bunny knocking out an unruly parent is exactly the kind of video that would get huge. There was a story on the news, not sure if it's true or not. A kid told Santa they wanted their dad or stepdad to stop touching them carnally. Then the Santa and some elves beat up the dad. I heard about that, too. One kid got on my lap and asked me if I could give him a bag of wiggly rice. I asked him what that was, and he said he ate some off a piece of chicken he found in the backyard. He said it was so yummy he wishes he had a whole bag of it. I was a heavy metal Santa outside the local guitar shop. Nothing creepy happened, just horns or middle fingers depending on how well I was playing that day. It's really cool to hear the echoes of a guitar solo off of passing cars though. This is the most badass thing I've heard all day. Not a Santa, but as an elf nearby. Kid maybe 11 years old and bangs below his nose goes up and whispers loud enough for me to hear, "I wish not to live anymore." I don't think anyone else heard it, and the Santa, pretty old dude but kind, tells him sorry, but there's so much more to wish for, and hands him off. Not a Santa, but a couple of years ago, the Santa who worked in a nearby town was fired. Why? An overweight 9-year-old boy sat on his lap, and Santa told him to layer the hamburger and french fries. Overweight kids that young is so sad to see. I was at Publix and this grossly fat kid sat in the cart, not in the child seat. He couldn't fit there and just kept demanding all sorts of different junk. He got everything he pointed at. While it's easy to blame the parent, his mother looked completely defeated and actually quite miserable. I used to photo the kids with Santa. A little girl asked for a boy toy. Santa was like, "What?" Her mom was a few feet away from the stage and says, "She means a truck." Reminds me of when I was a kid and my mom always asked for the boy toy with my Happy Meals in the drive-thru. But when we went inside and forgot and they gave me a Barbie instead of a Pokemon toy or something, I'd always be 1p little girl. So that might be where the kid got the term from or something similar. Maybe he misspoke, but one kid, maybe about 5 years old, asked me for a coffin. I don't recall if I sought much clarification. I must also share my most awkward moment, which happened when I was the Easter Bunny. 3 teenage girls wearing their cheerleader uniforms came to get their photo taken. One sat on my left leg, one sat on my right leg, and the other stood there hesitant for a few moments before finally making a decision and plopping down right in the middle, seating herself on my groin. I was probably biting my lip trying not to have a reaction. Fortunately, all anyone could see from the outside was my smiling bunny head. Dang it, you found my carrot. Not a Santa, but when my little brother was a toddler, he asked Santa for a baby brother or sister. Santa said he'd try his best. I'm not a mall Santa, but I've been answering Santa's mail for over 20 years. I'm a postal worker and we volunteer answering letters and I've seen it all. There's always sad ones when little kids ask for their dead parent or grandparents or ask to pass a message to their loved ones. There's always a weird adult venting about child support, divorce or money troubles. There was a group of 4 daughters who all asked only that their dad saw back get better. There was a strange kid asking for guns, knives and a lizard. There was one kid who said he's sick of being alone and he was so lonely he offered to become an elf. Last year I got a letter written from a guinea pig and we've had a few from the family dogs, so we treat those extra special. When we get extremely troubling letters they get special attention, especially if the sender is suicidal. If it's something I feel like I can handle myself, then I will usually send a small gift along with an encouraging letter. I send coloring books or crossword puzzles to the stressed people, and I've sent picture frame ornaments for those who have lost a loved one. Baby's first Christmas gets wax sealed calligraphy response appropriate for keepsake. Fortunately I've only gotten a couple of really disturbing letters, but it's becoming more common to get letters from stressed adults. Slightly opposite, but I had a friend who is Russian and who went to a Russian Christmas party, which is a different holiday from normal Christmas apparently, organized by a bunch of Russian families in town. They hired a Santa for all of the kids. My friend is in his last year of college, but everyone tells him to go up to Santa anyway. He's a good sport, so he does. But when he gets up there, Santa dead butt starts chewing him out for flunking a college course and to get better grades. Apparently this was premeditated by the adults ahead of time. I heard this story from him the night of over text when he locked himself in a room and was pee drunk off of vodka. The real St. Nicholas was a badass. He once slapped the Pope and took crap from no one. He was well known for protecting the poor, going so far as to save 3 girls from basically a forced marriage by taking 3 gold coins from an arms box and throwing it into their bedroom window. 1 coin landed in a pair of stockings hung by a fire to dry, which is where the custom of stockings on a fireplace comes from. I actually heard about silent Santas a few years back. Kids with autism don't do malls well. Being autistic myself, I agree. So I rent a suit every year and do a volunteer silent Santa. A family is picked for Christmas and I go over. The room is incredibly dim, but very comfortable for my eyes. Quiet, and it lets the non-verbals meet Santa. I basically do November and don't shave until January because elf. You go in with the parents and the kid meets you. Very soft ho ho ho. Be at their level. They meet. Touch me to see if I'm real. A couple pictures. Usually, getting pictures is difficult with some. It helps the family have some resemblance of a holiday. I was difficult. These kids are far harder, and the parents usually ask Santa questions. I help answer what I can. Basically, since my fam is so far away, and I never get to visit, I bring Christmas to someone else. It also keeps me sane, since the holidays bring out the worst in me. It's $550 for a suit rental, but it makes one Christmas totally awesome for that kid that won't have any more good ones. I knew a gentleman who was a Santa in our local mall for years. He had a real beard, so he was paid more. He didn't tell me any stories of anything that happened that was creepy, rather he said every year there was something interesting that happened. One year he had a guy propose while a girl was on his lap, and another time he said that all the higher ups were checking out the display, and as they were looking away a girl yelled "Hey Santa," and then she flashed him. He was a bit of a ladies man, so he enjoyed the show. Side story 1. My hubby worked with him as an elf, and his buddies thought that was lame, so they walked in there and legit kidnapped him and carried him out like a baby while making fun of him. Side story 2. He told me that he used to work for a children's home and dressed up as the Easter Bunny one year. His office was separate from the children's home and he had to walk along a busy freeway to get to the home. As he's dressed like a freaking bunny and walking along the road, a drunk driver saw him and crashed his car a little ways up the road. This freaked him out, so he walked down the hill to the home for a bit and called 911. As the police were arriving, he heard the driver tell the cops that he saw a freaking huge rabbit. It freaked him out when he saw it and didn't notice where he was going, which led to the crash. Disclaimer: because not a Santa and not creepy. Just hoping someone knows my mystery Santa. I know this will get buried, but in 2008 I was living in Columbia City, and when our local firehouse was holding their annual meet and greet with Santa, I was 32 years old sitting on a some poor volunteer's lap when he said, "And what would you like for Christmas, young lady?" Mind you, I was just diagnosed with uterine cancer, in a severely abusive marriage from heck. I was overweight and suffering from severe depression, so it took everything I had in me not to break down into tears when I leaned in close and whispered my Christmas wish to this man. I said I would like to see my daddy one more time before I die. I'm over 800 miles away from him right now and haven't seen him in 6 years. So all I want is to see my daddy just one more time. 4 months later I was told I only had 6 to 9 months to live and was issued disability benefits immediately. The first thing I did was get on a train and head back east to see my daddy. I'll be cancer free 5 years next month. I don't know about you, but I feel my little wish was granted. My father passed away 4 years ago yesterday, and I think of that volunteer fireman playing Santa every single Christmas. Not sure if this counts, but my buddy was Santa a few years back at a local shopping center, and this kid came up to him and sat on his lap. Now my friend isn't the tallest or most robust guy out there, so he didn't exactly look like a stereotypical fat Santa. I guess this kid picked up on it and got upset and said all he had wanted for Christmas was to have a good conversation with the real Santa, and that my friend was clearly an imposter. So a few debates later with the kid's parents, and the janitor, who was much more Santa-esque in stature, got dressed up in a spare suit they had, and the kid was satisfied. I did it for a year, many years ago, and never had a creepy one, but one kid really got me when he wished for his dog and brother back. He said they both were hit by a car and both died. Yes, it made me tear up. I was a Santa for my local Special Olympics group. I wish I could remember the count on kids asking to stop being bullied, for me to fix their whatever is wrong with them, i.e. autism, Down syndrome. It's enough to make a grown man cry. I've participated in Shop with a Cop for a few years, and my kids have wanted fairly normal things: bikes, doors, Lego or video games. We get an $80 gift card at Walmart for each child and help them spend it. The barcodes on the items are then marked through so the gifts can't be returned. Most kids and their parents really appreciate it, but occasionally you get a kid who has been coached and you have to gently deprogram them. We're not spending $80 on trashy jewelry for your dad's girlfriend. Anyway, an officer I worked with had a heartbreaker a few years ago. Generally we don't buy gift cards or things that require lots of batteries. We have a bit of leeway though, which can be a very good thing as evidenced here. The child in question wanted a gift card for Steak and Shake. That was it. All the money for Steak and Shake. When asked about it, it turned out that he had figured out the price of a milkshake during their happy hour and figured he could get one a week through the end of the school year if we'd get him the gift card. He was 9 and looked 6. He ended up with a pretty decent gift card. I hope he was able to use it the way he planned. My dad plays Santa every year for a bunch of corporate parties and our local version of Ronald McDonald House. They take a bunch of sick kids on a flight with Santa on a corporate jet. According to him, the absolutely most heartbreaking part of it is when little kids who are basically in hospice care ask Santa to make them better for Christmas. Second place is seeing all different kids every year, cause none of them ever live long enough to go twice. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.